Hello, everyone, and welcome to PCP No Boosters Needed. I am Jihadre, and joining me on this week's or month's episode are Zeno and the Snurks and Shazbot. Hey, guys.
Howdy, howdy.
Hello.
So, we are 2 weeks, we'll call it a week and a half away from our October tournament, and we're going to talk about how September went. So here's the interesting thing is neither of you two were on the broadcast for that one. So this is going to be a little bit more informative for you guys.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I've got my own surprises coming up for this next tournament, but hopefully it'll be one that can actually take a win off of another team, and we'll do great. Looking forward to that.
All right.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to see, what happened and learn more, just see how things played out.
Well, then we'll get right into it. It was Team Unknown versus Slick again. And you know what? I'm actually not too sad that we had a repeat of the last finals either. I believe it was August that we were introduced to Slick and we got to see their first foray into the PLC. And I think we had a lot of great things to see from them, a lot of great games. We saw, 4 games, I think that tournament, right? We had the one Swiss round and then all 3 games of the finals. Am I remembering that right?
I believe so.
Probably.
'Cause they were unstoppable. They were a lot of fun to watch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then this time we got almost the same thing. We got another Swiss round and then they both made it to the finals again. So we had it. What else is crazy is it's always in a row. Like the two of them played against each other in the last part of Swiss into finals both times. And so we get a lot of their games in a row. So the way this one went, Team Unknown came out victorious in Swiss, putting them at 4-1 against Slick. And then we had a 2-game sweep from Slick against Team Unknown. So now the record between the two is 4-3 favored on Team Unknown. And it's so close.
And it's so fun. I love Slick as this gate crashing, big bombastic name that is now PLC, like a household name for PLC. The impressions that we got in their first couple games, they quickly put it together. Everybody knows me as a big Team Unknown fan. They're a lot of fun to watch, and I think Slick is pretty far up there. We've had a lot of household names as Slick has gone on for over a year now, or for PLC has gone for over a year now, and they're just a lot of fun to watch. I look forward to the Slick versus Unknown games. Those are they feel like a growing rivalry that maybe I'm assigning to them.
That's okay. There are interesting things between the teams that make them similar and very different. And the first thing that makes them similar is their focus on the bottom lane. We have known Calavir to be the main carry of Team Unknown, but Rigby on the side of Slick he's insane. And that priority shone through in the draft of all of the games. It was first pick or first rotation, marksman, both games, and there were several bans, in particular the Sivir, the Twitch, and the Varus in all of the games. So big bot lane focus with these marksmen.
I mean, a higher level of play, you naturally have to focus more on the bot lane because of how much of a difference Dragon control gives you. Dragon is team-wide gold. Also, bot lane's the easier of the lanes to be able to take down the turret on and get turret plates for. There's, just so much emphasis on bot lane. The fact that you have 2 people there as well gives you higher odds of being able to get away with a kill if you gank as well.
Yeah. And just to your point, Zeno, about the bottom lane being easier to take, there was a game during Worlds where they lane swapped and they were both attacking a turret at the same time with the same number of champions. And bot lane got almost 2 full plates, and top lane got half of a plate. Like it's crazy how hard Riot nerfed the ability to take the top turret early. Super, super silly. In my opinion, I understand they wanted to try and direct the game a certain way, but that was insane.
But I like that too. The top laners kind of get maybe I'm a little bit biased here, kind of get overshown a little bit because dying in the top lane means 100% of your representation top lane is gone. If you trade 1-1 on bot lane, that might not mean that you can touch the tower. You have to kill both people, or at least route both people, in order to really get to the tower. Now, obviously, this is a very big blanket statement, but I do like that the bot lane is so bombastic. I do like that both household names are so strong in the bot lane, because that makes it more fun in the weight that their decisions carry down there. If it was like the other four players on both teams were really good except for the AD carry, I think that bot lane would be stale even if the support was amazing. Now, luckily for us, we have 2 great ADCs that we're comparing and 2 great supports, so it's a lot of fun bot lane. There's a lot of great dives and a lot of great picks down there that I enjoy.
That actually leads me into exactly what I wanted to talk about next, because just like we did last month, I want to look at good things and then things that these teams can improve. And the thing that you directed to is the collapse and map movement of Team Unknown is insane. In particular, in game number 1, I counted 4 just ridiculous, weird map collapses that you just wouldn't expect to see happen. They get, in particular, get this. Death got a kill bot, goes up top and burns a flash, and then ganks his own lane mid, all within 2 minutes, and burns a second flash. Gets a kill, burns 2 flashes on 3 lanes. All with his team moving around. Just the way that they're able to do that and find the priorities on the bottom side is just so silly.
Yeah, their ability to communicate with each other is hilarious to me. It's if you were to tell me that they were beta testing some chip to make them all think the same thoughts at the same time, I'd believe it, because they have this like uncanny coordination that comes from playing a decade together, or however long they've been playing together. And it's honestly one of those things that I would love to get on the line with Team Unknown and just know and ask, like, is it something that they've had to train up, that they saw weakness and got better over time, or is it just something that has gradually grown, or are they just like such naturally good players that they recognize things at the same time? I don't know, and I would like to know, but the result is clearly that this map awareness of like, let's snap to this objective, let's re-gank my own lane, like you were saying. And it's what makes them scary is their combined efforts.
Yeah, sometimes like just that natural synergy and knowing how each other plays can make a huge difference. Like, I remember this one time my brother was jungle and he was playing with his friend who was in the top lane, okay? And my brother came in, ganked the Vayne top lane, took her down, and then them knowing how each other thinks, he waits in the top bush and just sits there doing something that's technically not optimal at all, and just sits there and waits. And then as soon as the Vayne returns, he ganks her again and immediately takes her down. And not only did that tilt the Vayne, but it also put his friend so far ahead that his friend was just able to carry the rest of the game, even though he was now behind the jungler.
That's awesome. I love that type of play where, like you said, it wasn't necessarily optimal, but it worked in that scenario. It worked with your teammate. It worked with your draft and things like that. I love seeing that type of experimentation and quote unquote suboptimal plays actually being for the better. To Slick's credit, one of the things that they do really, really well is recovering from a supposedly bad play. And
True.
I was able to find two really specific examples in game number 1 at 32 minutes and 52 seconds of video time, not game time. There was a play on the bottom side around the Drake where they lose. I want to say they lose either Rigby or their support, and they're being dove. And as Team Unknown is leaving, there's a teleport and a mid lane collapse, and it goes for like 3 minutes of fighting, and Slick comes out on top. Like they get 3 kills instead of 1, and they're able to go right back to farming and doing what they do. Just the way that they can take a bad play and turn it into something good. Later on in that game, oh yeah, Fiora in game number 1 is just pushing top lane. His entire team died on bottom, but he won the game because he was all alone.
Yeah, bombastic play. It was really fun. You know, and honestly, it's one of those things. Like if you can drop your queen in order to get checkmate, like that's what Slick is good at is making plays that make you kind of double take, but then you're like, oh man, no, 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 no. I the problem is me, not
Hmm.
Slick. You know, I did not see what they were doing here.
Yeah, lots of fun. For another really good example, 25 minutes 15 seconds of game number 2 of the finals. It's another really cool example of when it looks like they lost a play, but then they turn it around and end up getting a lot more out of it. So if you get the chance, go ahead and take a look at those. Now I want to look at some draft bonuses or good things that these teams do in the draft. The first one is Slick really understand the point of a counter pick. Like the game number 1 where they picked the Fiora into the Ornn, it literally saved that entire game. It was insane. And waiting for it, picking it and being confident on it was something that I think that Shazbot we've talked about a bit, where the prio on red has gone down because our teams don't usually work well with that counter pick power.
Right. You can tell that that Slick is preparing well, that they are looking for it's less of, oh, they picked Ornn, let me pick Fiora, but and more of like, hey, like this is I guess not a juggernaut, but this is a really, really slow weighty champion that we can play around. It's almost one of those things that like you start to wonder if they picture themselves with the Fiora play that backdoors for the win before the game even starts, which is
Mm.
something that I've been asking for a while, and I hope that it pushes people to have to think like they do, because if that's the case, then PLC is in a very blessed position where we're going to get some very dynamic games from champ select from drafting like we're talking about.
Another great draft pick moving over to Team Unknown is Syndra for Death. My gosh, like we've had some really cool death plays over the last almost year in the PLC, but I'm going to tell you guys, the way he played Syndra and just how fast he blew people up was actually terrifying. And I would love to see him play Syndra more because it was truly scary.
Well, that means that we're probably going to see him less now that we've put the public
Yeah,
aware of
well,
it.
yeah, but that's okay.
No, but
We'll be okay.
seriously, Death's mid lane is a lot of fun, and his Syndra is no exception. Now, a lot of people talk about Syndra just being a damage check. Like, are you under the threshold? But
Mhm.
Death is like is more because he puts himself in those positions to capitalize on that he like pushes you against the wall and says, "Up, sorry, here's your damage numbers." So he's very good at that.
As someone that plays a lot of mid lane, I think like people can also greatly underestimate the pressure that Syndra has because, when you think of pressure, you normally think of someone with very consistent CC or excellent roaming power who you can get around. But at the end of the day, Syndra can apply pressure through her cone and stun and also the slow with the repositioning on her W. So I think she provides a lot more than just, stat check and just ulting and getting that execute if you play her correctly, which clearly Death knows how to.
Yeah, and that was the champion he used on that group of plays I was mentioning where he gets around all three lanes on the map. So definitely go back and watch game number 1 of the finals if you haven't seen it, and if you have, do it again because it's incredible. Seriously, like for real guys, it was crazy. So any other positives that you two want to bring up before we move on to what we believe we can see improve on these teams?
No, I kind of feel like we're kind of in a new era. I'm glad that Team Unknown is starting to sweat a little bit, and that SLCC is really finding their footing. I would not be surprised to see SLCC to come back in this little win rate standoff, but who knows? Maybe a rising star will give them a shake. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, that's definitely something I appreciate about Slick joining PLC is that they show that just because you're new doesn't mean you can't come in and win. And it's like, Shazbot was just explaining, maybe we'll see them inspire people who are like, oh yeah, I think I can win. I think our team can come in and take the glory. Try to step in and see what they can do.
Very similar story to the Fall Guys who came in and really did about that in June and July. We miss them. Hey, if you're listening, come play, please. We miss you. All
It's
right.
true.
So I'll give you guys the choice. Do we want to talk Team Unknown or Slick first about what we think can be improved?
Let's go Team Unknown.
All right. So it's really funny because when we did this last month, we said that their chaos and their just map movements and everything are kind of borderline flippant. It feels like, and if they can focus up and play to win, they will win more. But they're just having a good time. I think that came through again in this tournament where their draft experimentation is a riot, pun intended. It's so much fun to see them picking things and the way that they choose to play the game, but it is to their detriment. They end up losing games because they're experimenting just a bit too much or doing something just a little weird. And it came through in this tournament. I think that they could have picked a few things that were a little bit more in line with the changes that the meta brought and the way that their opponents play as well.
Yeah, and shout out to it's T-Van, right? That was the announcer.
Yes.
I loved what a great announcer and his insight. We in PLC know the Tarek Varus lane as being a terrifying one for Team Unknown.
Mhm.
And that was not the initial impression for someone who's kind of new to PLC with T-Van. And I wonder like how much is comfort pick for Team Unknown, who have a very wide range of champions, and how much is a decision of making those plays like we were talking about with the Fiora recently, to say, hey, I want to see this happen in my game. Let me pick these champions so that I can get this result,
Mhm.
so that I can pressure Dragon more, so I can push the tower before 10 minutes, things like that.
So moving on to Slick, they what else is really interesting is exactly what we asked from all of our teams happened in the Swiss stage. It was crazy. Poro Snacks made it really, really far in their match against Team Unknown. I think it was a 39:57 was our game time. That pushed them really far. The crazy play with Death in the mid lane. Seriously, at like 90 health for, I don't know, 15 seconds in a fight. It was just bananas. So watch Swiss stage if you want to catch that one. I believe that was game number 2. That had to be game number 1. Anyway, so from there, Slick really focused down on the objectives on the map. They tore down turrets, they pushed the lanes and got the pressure. But then when it came to the finals, when they were playing against Team Unknown, it was almost like they forgot that was something they worked on. They did some amazing team fighting, and they got some of the jungle buffs and drakes and grubs and stuff, but it just took so long to take any turrets.
Man, I'm so excited to watch these again. I'm realizing just how much I'm like, oh yeah. That's something I need to watch again. Hard to make a comment off of it, but it's something that I'm looking forward to go back again. Guys, YouTube channel, it's pretty good.
Absolutely. You'll also be able to find us on that. Our PCP will be a separate playlist, so you should already know that because that's where you've probably found us to begin with. Anyway, all right. So it was a great tournament in September. We're in October now. Yeah, September was great. Congrats to Slick, and good work by Team Unknown pushing them in the finals, doing a great job. We're looking forward to seeing all our teams, and you know what, Shazbot, is now the time to announce some team stuff.
I would love to. Unfortunately, my team, shout out to my team, and I have not decided on a name yet. So if that sounds familiar, then let me know and I'll give you a gold star.
I don't think.
Yeah.
Zeno, do you know all about all of this? About the name Shazbot's teams?
Oh, man.
No, I do not.
All right, so one of the first tournaments we had Eman Mate. That's team name spelled backwards, and that's what they eventually came up with. Shazbot, wasn't it?
Oh, I remember that name.
It was like a month we were talking about it, and you finally got it, and it was just team name backward.
It's I don't know what it is about me and attracting people that are a little indecisive. I swear, in game, we're more decisive, but I guess we're just spending all of our points on Baron calls and not marketable team names. So no plushies of us for a while, I guess.
Well, it got worse because a few months later, when you put a team together for, man, I want to say it was June. It was either June or July. It was Team No Team.
Yeah, yep.
And so there's this long history of Shazbot teams either not having a name or having a really silly name, and it makes me laugh every time.
I mean, if it was my way, then we'd name everything off of Tribes 2, which is of course where Shazbot comes from. But oh man. Anyways, yeah, we're looking forward to playing. We have a good group of guys, and we're a little bit of jokesters, and it'll be a lot of fun.
I will put out some rumors that there is a team who's looking to kind of divide and conquer to create a second team and come out swinging double time on the PLC Rift. And we're not just talking about the varsity and JV teams of Slick, which has been proffered as an option. I know that they have their 2 teams that they would like to field in the PLC, but this is another team who's thinking about it. So keep that in the back of your mind when we get into October. October 19th, by the way, sign up.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to patch notes. I want to apologize, number one, that we were wrong about what patch we were going to be playing on in September. We missed it by a week.
Whoops.
Yeah, so we talked for like 20 minutes about all these cool things that we were going to see because we were on this new patch and then we weren't on that new patch. We were on a newer one and it made me really sad.
And that was the last mistake we ever made.
I did check and these patch notes came out yesterday. So, 2 weeks from yesterday, we will still be on this patch when our tournament comes live on October 19th. So that's good news. And other good news before we get to the actual details of it, how many I mean, not really raise of hand, but did you guys use the League of Legends wiki on fandom?
I you used it before, if that's your question.
Zeno?
Yeah, I usually look up PPE. Are you talking about the most recent one that came out, like the new wiki?
That's what I want to talk about.
Oh,
Okay,
interesting.
I haven't tried out the new wiki yet, but I've heard of it.
So, fandom is a free site and so it's got a lot of ads and it's kind of janky. It's hard to find stuff. The mobile version of it is borderline useless. So, finally, Riot has released an official League of Legends wiki page that is basically the same thing with zero ads. And
Fantastic.
it's got the same developers from the fandom wiki and it's sponsored or not sponsored but it's run by Riot. So it doesn't have any of the limitations or anything. I've been browsing it a little bit before getting on to do this episode of the podcast and it looks the same. It's all familiar. It looks real clean. It's organized and it's about time.
So they went the way of RuneScape though, because they did a very similar thing a while ago. And honestly, like any game devs out there, like take charge of that. It's obviously there's a cost with it, but having accessible information for your players is what allows them to get deeper into your game.
Mhm.
Looking at you, Binding of Isaac.
All right.
Very true. Like, I've had experiences in the past where, I've just tried to find information for a newer game or a game I've just gone into. I can't find anything on it or it's super disorganized. So, yeah, having that accessible information makes all the difference.
And I, for one, am going to be using it a lot. I loved the wiki. Just like I said, on my phone, it was garbage, and now this one's going to be a lot cleaner. I am very happy.
For
So,
sure.
so moving into our patch notes, the one thing that didn't happen this patch but happened last one that we didn't get a chance to talk about is the reviving of lethal tempo. And
Oh, yeah.
especially with our marksman focused teams that we just finished discussing, what are your guys' thoughts about a lethal tempo coming back and b its rework?
Okay, so,
Go
oh,
ahead.
do you want to go first?
No, go for it, please.
Okay, so, as someone that spends most of my time on the PBE, the biggest appeal for lethal tempo, in my opinion, is going to be for just attack speed focused champions. Because not only does it provide that attack speed, but can help you make up that damage you're not building as much of, thanks to the on hit effects of it. So, for example, you just stack attack speed. It's going to be good on Kog'Maw, for example. I think will make a lot of use out of it. Like you can go on hit or more attack speed focus build on him. Jinx is going to do really well with lethal tempo as well, but it's not going to be like an all encompassing everybody builds lethal tempo type of rune anymore because that 50 extra attack range made such a difference on ADCs. So
Hmm.
having removed that, now other options like press the attack can be a lot more appealing on champions like Vayne or sticking with Hail of Blades for Tristana, or if you need the sustain, just sticking with Fleet Footwork.
Time out for just a quick second. Is that this patch? Because I know a lot of people have been talking about it, but that's something that I've been thinking about. I was looking for the numbers and didn't see it in 1420.
No, it's live now already. It was
It's
in
live already.
1419. Yeah, it was in 1419. It was literally right after we played our
Gotcha.
September.
Gotcha. In that case, I was thinking about the exact opposite, Zeno. The champions that I was thinking about, like in frankly the brief window where we didn't have lethal tempo, I was thinking about all the champions that could use it fairly well that didn't have great attack speed scaling. That are definitely going to be more niche. Obviously, most of the people who are going to take lethal tempo are going to be our ADCs, our Yasuo's, and our Yones. And goodness gracious, do they need to watch those two very closely with lethal tempo? But I was also thinking about the amount of tanks with 3-hit combos with the ability to kind of pressure scenarios. Um, I was watching a frankly troll build of Tom Kench, who built oh, what's the fidget spinner?
Flicker Blade, Navori Flicker
Flicker
Blade.
Blade. Which is obviously troll on Tom Kench. I would not recommend doing that. But he was getting tongue lashes out so often that he was healing more than with Grasp of the Undying. Now, I was thinking to myself, I was like, I wonder what other champions with not great attack speed scaling would actually appreciate lethal tempo as their like sole one attack speed option. So I agree with Zeno. I think we're gonna see it on all of the classic champs, and it would be interesting to kind of experiment with it more, which is probably why it got removed in the first place.
Well, to kind of add to it, like your thought process, I think it'll be really good. Like you said, it could be a good option to make it up for champions that could use it. Like for example, I could see it, even though it wouldn't traditionally see it on them. Like Gnar could probably see a lot of use from
Mm,
Lethal Tempo, for example.
Right. Especially because Fleet Footwork is not feeling extra special good on him right now.
mhm.
Nar player over here, by the way.
That's specifically why I brought up Gnar, because I know you play him.
Yeah, and I'm looking for like Fleet Footwork is still fine, but oh man, does it not feel nearly as good.
Mm-mm.
So yeah.
Okay. So the next one we need to bring up is Caitlyn. We talked about her last month and the fact that she was already strong, and so giving her those buffs seemed a little, a little iffy. And it turns out it wasn't good enough, so they increased her attack speed ratio again and gave her extra damage on her pass through damage on her Q. So same reasons to bring this one up as last time. We have marksman focused teams. Caitlyn is already strong. She thrives on those headshots. So her cooldown decreased last time. Plus now even more attack speed scaling. It seems bananas to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. My opinion is I've always kind of viewed Caitlyn as a more oppressive champion just in general, so it surprises me that they're hitting her with all of these buffs all of a sudden, but maybe it's just because she's being outclassed later in matches or something, but I'm not completely certain. There's probably something on the dev side that I'm not picking up on.
Well, we aren't either. So we'll see Caitlyn. You know what? She was my pick for the most pick champion at Worlds, by the way, on my pick'ems, and I'm super disappointed because I don't think I've seen her once.
No. Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, it's okay. You live and you learn. Or in my case, you just live and never get better at pick'ems. So that's
I
okay.
think I think that's 90% of the people who do pick'ems.
Yeah.
So,
All right, let's
Just
talk
throw
about.
Renekton on there, safe bet.
I mean,
yeah.
you're not too far off. He has been very popular, but Yone is the big problem right now. Have you guys seen his
Yep.
stats at Worlds?
I have, and I've also seen the compilations of pro games that look like solo queue
Yeah.
with Yone in the middle of it. So
And let's skip around then in our list because Yone is on here for a reason. They buffed the guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I this has to be another one of those the dev side has to know something we don't because what the crap are they thinking? They gave him more damage. When he hits with his Q, he deals 90% when he crits instead of 80%. Like what?
which you have to realize is not as much damage as it's one of those 2 attack damage on Caitlyn things where not impactful. Like he's gonna hit for 910 damage instead of 890 or whatever,
Mhm.
but it's still gonna be one of those things that it's like it doesn't feel great. It's what I kind of regretting not watching Freak's video before going to this. Just to see the mindset. Freak is definitely one of those people that you listen to the thought process and then you say, okay, but what
Yeah.
about all this? So anyways, I haven't heard his side yet.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
we-
I am extremely biased because I hate both Yone and Yasuo as champions, so I don't have much to say.
Well, when you combine it with the new lethal tempo, right? It just there's no reason to take anything other than that rune on those 2 champions. It's just so silly, and then you give him more damage. That's why he's so oppressive to begin with, is he deals so much damage. He gets the free 50% crit. And so then you're giving him extra damage on crit. It's just none of it makes any sense. I would be okay if they took away some health, or lowered his armor or increased a cooldown in addition to it. Fine, but they just gave him free damage.
It's one of those things that like kleptomancy way back in the day was a rune that only worked on like 3 champions, and that rune on those 3 champions was insane because of how the champions interacted with the rune, and Yone and Yasuo are just 2 champions that unfairly get enough out of that rune to the point where the people who need to use that rune are kind of shut out because of how well they use that rune. I hope they look at the levers of what is giving Yone and Yasuo to make it feel more fair. It does sometimes feel like the reason why Yone and Yasuo are so frustrating to play against is they just build an item and now they're relevant,
Yeah.
let alone the skill cap that they can achieve when they get up to their skill ceilings.
Well, I am with Zeno, and I have little to no love for either of those champions. So I'm going to recommend we move on before one of us 3 says something we'll regret.
I have something to say that I will not regret, and that's I would not be sad at all if they reworked Yasuo into a support champion.
Oh my gosh.
It's on the record now. I can't
It's
take it back.
savage.
I have nothing to take back. I don't like the champion. I get lots of people like him, but I love the idea of like using Yasuo's win wall as more of a support move than on a carry.
That's hilarious. I can see it. We'll have to talk
Yeah.
about that more offline, because
You could
Yeah.
give him like a big shield and like make him dash to like a friendly champion or something like that. Maybe his like ulti can be a big like knock up in a line. Maybe give him like
Yeah,
a 4-hit
exactly.
stun. Yeah. That could be pretty
Like,
good.
yeah, he
Workshop
uses
it a
his
bit.
E dash to share his passive shield with the laner.
Yeah,
Ooh.
totally. But we had to give him like a big mustache and like
Yes.
he's already shirtless. Maybe we send him to the Freljord.
Oh my gosh.
What if we give him a passive that makes it so that if you land 3 auto attacks after he lands his Q, it stuns them?
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Anyways, Brom's a great champion.
Let's talk about Corki real quick, because the change they made on him is weird. Because he's a marksman, he's touted as one of the safest marksmen. He goes in the mid lane because he is so safe. He has such crazy range, and they gave him 150% bonus AD on his W, that Valkyrie. It deals damage, and so they're giving him a huge ratio and some sort of incentive to put him into melee range.
Yeah,
I don't know.
a lot of these if you look just generically at the nerfs and buffs before we talk about Corki a little bit more, it definitely looks like they're trying to break up a tank meta, which I'm sad to see, but I think we represent a non-assassin, non-hyper carry side of the game between the 3 of us. And Corki is someone who can break up tanks very, very well. But you look at all these changes and you're like, man, these are a lot of changes the other way. You know, Corki being very good at dealing a lot of damage in a short amount of time.
Yeah, another thing is like I don't know, like you have little to no incentive to use Corky's Valkyrie as a damaging tool, especially since it's damage over time and they have to stand in it to take damage. I've always viewed it more like an Ezreal E, where yeah, it's there and it can deal damage, but it's more so a repositioning tool.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's going to be good for wave clear. Maybe that's the intent behind it.
That's a very good point, actually.
Okay.
And it's a non-zero amount of damage. You know, you mentioned Ezreal E, and a big skill expression of Ezreal is learning when to E in instead of E out, because it helps stack your passive as Ezreal. I can imagine a big portion of skill expression is, hey, I'm going in as Corki. You know, maybe this 100, 200, 800 damage is going to matter. I don't know
love
how
that
much 150%
you couldn't
bonus
even
damage.
finish it. You were laughing before you even finished the scenario.
Yeah. Well, guilty.
Also with Ezreal, sometimes using the E to go in to get guaranteed detonate on the W, since you can't guarantee your Q will land.
Right. But that's definitely copium at that point. Stop playing Ezreal if that's what you're saying.
All right. So the next champion that I thought is worth discussing is Shyvana. She's been again another world's terror, especially in the play-ins stage. She was just dominating everybody because she does so much damage when she throws down that E with a single Leandri's torment. It's just honestly it's bananas. And so they've reduced her AP scaling and action on 3 abilities. And so, trying to drop the amount of damage she can do with just a single item, especially when she's a bruiser type champion by design.
I'll come out and say I've never liked AP Shyvana. I kind of despise champions where one ability is their entire. She feels like old Nidalee, where you get hit by a spear, your HP's gone. Like I understand that there's an appeal and there's definitely a use for that out there, but it is kind of silly to get grazed by the edge of an exploding E, and you're like, well, I guess I'm out of the fight. Like,
Mhm.
and rather than the old Shyvana, which was dancing in and out of fights, and now I'm in my dragon form and I'm going to chase you down. I understand why people aren't playing that right now. That maybe it's not fun to not deal damage, but yeah, watching it at Worlds hurts.
Mhm.
That's for sure.
What about you, Xeno? What do you
Yeah,
think?
well, it's like we've discussed in the past, Shyvana was originally meant to be an AD champion, so I honestly feel like her AP ratios have been very oppressive for a while, and as someone that likes to build AP and likes to do more mage builds, I can respect the nerfs that are coming her way.
I'm especially happy because, like Shazbot, I prefer not AP Shyvana. I've played Shyvana since season 2 or 3, and I miss the fact that that her E helps when you hit someone with your E, you deal percent health damage afterward. Like no,
Yeah.
like no one knows that because it's all about getting the AP and blasting it in dragon form. Nah, man, when you're in human form, you throw that through 6 enemies, or I mean the wave or the jungle camp or whatever you're fighting, and you walk up and you queue them and you chunk them super hard. It's super fun. But
I'm no game designer, but that would be real fun to like AP was like it scaled on your detonation damage. So instead of just like throwing an Italy spear and hoping it
ooh,
connects, you like have to run up to them and connect, and maybe it explodes or it ignites them or something like that. And it
like a
does
Varus
because
W.
yeah, because if I become a melee Varus, get away from me, get away from me, get away from me. Ouch, you just hit me for 1200 damage actually sounds like a fun interactive experience rather than blah, here's some fire. And I get it, you want to live the dragon fantasy of fire, but I also want to duel you with my sword.
Mhm.
Get down here, Mr. Dragon. So
What if what if they adjusted it so that the Dragon Blast like main fire damage doesn't apply to the area where it lands, but only hits the first target that the main missile collides with, then it leaves the AP damage on the ground.
So more like a karma cue.
Yes.
Okay, I can
yeah,
appreciate
Uh,
that.
I want Shyvana to get in there. I don't like cowardly Shyvana. I don't get the dragon fantasy from shooting from super far away. Like, uh, maybe it doesn't have to be AD Shyvana. Maybe I don't need Shyvana building attack speed anymore. But I do want Shyvana to be in my face, beating me to a pulp, even if that's with AP. Just get over here. That's what they did with Nidalee is they you tag with the spear and then you jump in for the execute.
Hmm.
Uh, but anyways,
I could talk
off my
Shyvana
high
all night.
horse. And we know you would. We know you would.
What about Skarner? I know that he's been weird, right? People complain he's too strong, and then other people say he's completely useless. We saw him in PLC a few times, and now he has been nerfed. They've taken a lot of his tankiness away, percents of health doing important things.
I I like the new Skarner a lot. I've been playing a lot of him. He's a lot of fun. Getting a 4-man ult on Skarner, there's few things that feel as good. Um, and people are not wrong. um, I think a big problem with Skarner is that he's very inflexible, which is both a lore win and a uh, it's difficult because if you're just building HP, uh, it's there's not enough decision points or whatever. And it's possible that was by design that he's just supposed to fill a very specific.
Uh-oh. I think we
I muted
lost him.
myself. Sorry, I touched my microphone on the wrong side. But yes, all that is to say, I think both camps are right. I think Skarner is still very strong because anyone who has the potential to ult 3 or 4 people and take them out of a fight, even for a second, is never going to be terrible. But yes, he is weird.
it's kind of funny because I feel like new Skarner isn't. It's like you said, it's probably by intention, but new Skarner definitely isn't as flexible as old Skarner. Old Skarner, you could do all kinds of wacky builds on him. You
Yeah.
could go full damage, full tank, bruiser. Like there was a lot of flexibility there, but he wasn't as because of that he wasn't as effective overall. So it's almost like Riot's trying to force him into specifically a tank role, and they're having a hard time finding the numbers that fit.
I had that realization when he came out, right? One of the things that has been the hardest for Riot to balance is the rock paper scissors. If you have someone who's
Mm.
tanky, they really shouldn't deal that much damage. If they hurt really really close, they shouldn't have high range damage. And so Skarner's weaknesses were, or his strengths were being up close. He gets a shield, a stun, and an ultimate that is very, very, very hard to counter. So instead, what they do is they make him able to be right in front of you, give him a shield, deal AoE, and have a ranged AoE slow so that he can catch you. Like they removed every weakness that the champion had. So I haven't played him. I don't know how well it all flows. Shazbot, you say you like it, but when you give a champion no weaknesses, it's hard to balance in that way. And so, like Zeno was saying, they just need to get their numbers right. And I think maybe it would be okay. But I think they fundamentally messed up that redesign by giving him too many things.
You know, I'll agree to disagree there.
Okay.
I think it's not every single champion's place to be like perfect, and maybe this is a balance nightmare that no, I will agree 100% there that maybe there isn't a position where the new Skarner can fit comfortably as strong but with weaknesses. He's probably going to be one of those champions that just depends on the numbers. He's either going to be too strong or too weak.
Mhm.
And I think that he's got a very unique niche that is never going to be just perfect in solo queue. But I think, especially in something like PLC, I think Skarner can fly under the radar very, very well. I have played a lot of games as Skarner where people underestimate me, and that has led to me being able to kill them because they're overconfident, or to ult the entire team because they don't want to focus the tank or whatever. And I'd say keep an open mind, especially if you're trying to find ways to take games off of some household names. Wink, wink. So don't ban my Skarner.
My I think New Skarner's biggest weakness is if you know what to look for, he has very telegraphed moves. You know when the Q's coming, you know when he's starting up his E, unless he's, going through a wall to grab you. The ult you can actually react to, unlike the old ult. So I think as people become more comfortable with Skarner and see what he does, it becomes easier to counter him and to avoid his moves. However, you don't see that many Skarners in the first place, which makes it hard to gain that experience.
And he's just kind of like Ganondorf in Super Smash Bros, where his moves are big and heavy and weighty, but connecting one basically means that you've dealt a huge chunk, and that's maybe why he just is going to depend on the numbers. Where if the numbers don't make sense to run someone into the wall, then maybe he won't be ever useful. But
Mhm.
anyways,
Alrighty.
Also, Skarner, one more thing, sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Skarner is also very item dependent, which also makes it hard to, balance his numbers.
There
certainly.
you go. And speaking of items, the last thing to bring up real quick is the cost reduction on marksman items. Huzzah! Essence Reaver, Collector, and Yuntal Wild Arrows all got cost reductions. They swapped out BF Sword for a pickaxe in their recipe, and they also got subsequently nerfed to keep them in line with the numbers that the items that build them are. But they're trying to get marksman items quicker, and for our tournament in particular, we talk about them all the time, but it's really what we work with is our marksman.
I really like these changes. I think it makes the lanes less swingy. Um, and I don't like swingy lanes because as soon as a lane is lost, it is very hard to make good choices in there. So like taking a lead and getting an early item is definitely scary now, but having 5 less AD, uh, granted maybe a minute earlier or something along those lines, uh, is interesting to me. Because that also means that the enemy champion can get that by just some more passive minions and catch up. I'm excited about this. I like these.
I think these changes are also really good because I'm a big fan of the Essence Reaver item when I play ADCs, just because I love being able to spam my spells and use them as I
Mhm.
see fit. So, seeing Essence Reaver be an item that costs less so that you can better maintain your mana and you can stay safer in lane is also good. Plus, on top of that, if you're taking a rune like Gathering Storm, for example, then that 5 AD or 10 AD may not make that much of a difference because as the match goes on, you're getting free stats anyway.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I think, especially, the solo queue complaint is that marksmen are worthless, even though they dominate in the professional scene when you can work around it and coordinate with your team a little bit better. This, I
Right.
think, will help alleviate some of that stress in the solo queue environment where you can get your item a little faster and feel relevant sooner.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
100 gold, 200 gold is not nothing.
That is true.
It's a what? That's like roughly like 8 to 10 minions, depending on the wave.
Yeah, so a typical wave I think is like 90 gold or 114 gold or something like that, if I remember right.
Oh
So
well,
if you-
I'm way off with my math then.
But think about that though, because that literally means a wave earlier.
Mhm.
If you think of, you should be thinking about the game in waves, in that kind of periodic clock. And a wave earlier is significant, but less swingy because you're ahead, but not that much further ahead. You know, again, by 5 AD, by 10 damage, by things like that. But be that as it may, you know.
I mean, and on top of that, like just the price for completing those components and making it a full item is way more valuable than having those items on their own, you know?
Mhm.
Oh, holy cow! Though, collector's 400 gold cheaper for for an acceleration item. Oh my goodness, that's kind of
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah, it's about time. I've wanted to rush collector for years, and you can't because it's expensive, especially when they put the BF sword into the recipe. So
Right.
it's about you run that with the not rabbit. What's the bounty hunter? The one that has the gold on kill and everything like that, dude.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Hubris?
No, not hubris. It's a rune. It's a hunter rune in the red tree. It's not
Oh,
greedy.
it's
Treasure
like
hunter.
Treasure Hunter, that's it.
Yeah. So you put that, you rush the collector that's now 400 gold cheaper, and you get Triumph. Man, you're getting gold, gold, gold. I love it.
Throw on a to take first strike for the heck of it
Yeah,
too. Oh
exactly.
my gosh. Misfortune's gonna love this.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to PCP. We will be back after our next tournament, which is on October 19th. You can find us by searching Progenitor Circuit on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch. Sign up and play in the tournaments on start.gg, and we will see you there.